So, you know, you're climbing up this like super technical thing, and you know, you start to feel a little bonk, like the bonk goblins are like, I got you! And you're like, no, get away from me, bonk goblins! And you start descending this road, still kind of like, you know, elevated heart rate, and then you hit a corner and it's all washboarded and you're just like, how's it going? I'm John from the Radavist here in beautiful Elgin, Arizona, doing another beautiful builds video for the Pros Closet. Adam Sklar is a frame builder in Bozeman. He's been building bikes for maybe 6-7 years. I first met him at NABS, which is the North American Handmade Bicycle Show, where he made a pretty big splash. His bikes are pretty iconic at this point. They've got this like beautiful curved top tube, and he always puts like a really nice bend in the seat stays. And you can tell a Sklar from a mile away. He also made the top tube a little bit longer, keeping the same reach. So you run a shorter stem, wider bars, and you've got the same fit as like your road bike or your cross bike, but you don't have to worry about toe overlap. He tweaked the geometry so it has a really slack head angle for a cross bike. It's actually got a 71-degree head angle. The seat angle is a 73, and you know, the tire clearance, this thing fits a 50mm tire on a 700C wheel, but it also fits a 275 by 2.1. Bottom bracket is like a little bit higher than like a road bike bottom bracket. The chain stays are 420mm. And so the geometry aficionados out there can already kind of like tell in their heads like how this bike is gonna ride, which is basically like a warthog on steroids. It just like mows over everything, climbs really well, is relatively light. So many bikes are built around a gravel, like a carbon gravel fork. You know, Envy, Columbus, Whiskey, they all make these great forks. They're super light. The problem with a carbon fork on a gravel bike is you start riding like, you know, 50 miles of washboard, like rugged road out here, and you just get this like, this chatter effect that like, you know, you're like, how do I get rid of this? It sucks. And like, oh, maybe I need a suspension stem. Maybe I need a suspension seat post. Maybe I need all this like extra shit to make this bike more compliant. Reality is, we just need to start putting steel forks on these bikes again. A nice steel fork with a beautiful rake is gonna flex and vibrate over these road conditions and absorb a lot of that chatter, versus a carbon fork is just like, not going anywhere. And you feel every single bump in the road. So that's gonna be the next big step in what I do to this bike to make it more capable for the kinds of rides that I like to do. There are a lot of companies out there that make components and accessories and even frames. One of the ways that I build my bikes is by selecting products that my friends make. It's awesome. Like, it's so cool to be able to ride something that your friend made by hand or by machine. And it's really evident with this bike. You know, you've got a Paul component stem that's made in Chico, California. Paul and Travis and Patrick and all the people that work there are just great individuals. You know, Nito made these bars specifically for crust bikes. Matt and Cheech are great. What they're doing is awesome. And yeah, Adam Sklar built this bike. One of the things I really love about this bike is I can fit my full frame Sony with like a telephoto lens in this beautifully constructed half frame bag that my buddy Sam down in Albuquerque, New Mexico made. His company is called Buckhorn, and he makes custom frame bags that will fit your bikes, even when they have this crazy like top tube thing going on. So everyone knows, or at least has had some limited experience with a Press Fit 30 bottom bracket. They suck, okay? Like that, to me, that's like one of the greatest failures of like modern bicycle design, right there with flat mount brakes, but don't get me started on that. But a Press Fit 30 bottom bracket, the thing that's nice about it is it's a larger diameter shell. So you can start like intersecting that shell with like these bigger tubing diameters, which on a steel bike with these classic like English threaded shells, it's really hard once you start using some of these oversized Columbus steel tubing profiles. But what a T47 bottom bracket does is it maintains that big diameter that you use in a press fit shell with a threaded cup. So you take threaded larger diameter bearings that thread in and lock down. No creaking, no walking, no annoying service. Like, I've had this bike for 4 or 5 years and I've never had to do anything to the bottom bracket. So Adam used the T47 shell so that he could run some of these larger diameter tubes into it, and it would have plenty of room to bite and to fillet braze or TIG or whatever with it. So this has a pretty stout down tube, comes right into that big shell, plenty of room. Chainstays are a little bit thicker, same thing. Awesome. It gives it a little bit of stiffness, which you kind of want when you're trying to cram a massive tire into a bike. Last thing you want is to be going up a steep climb and feeling the tire rubbing the chainstays. So what I think is really cool about this is Adam experimented a little bit with the cyclocross frame, and it ended up being kind of the perfect all-rounder, like all-encompassing road bike, right? Dirt roads, double track roads, paved roads, kind of does everything. I could go on a tour with it, I could get a bike packing bag, or I can just enjoy pedaling around some beautiful southern Arizona roads with Sarah Swallow, who was nice enough to let me come down here for the weekend.